how to add some texture to an image in Affinity Photo. Of course, I've got an image here, but you can also do it with shapes. You can also do it with type, and I'll show that later. So with this selected here, I can go and duplicate it. So layer and duplicate. Now I actually want to have another one of that. So layer and duplicate. So with that, I've got 3. Seems a bit excessive, I agree. But what you can now do is you can add masks into the equation. So with this selected, I can just apply effects. It doesn't have to be any amazing effect. It could be a halftone effect. It could be anything, just to add some texture, maybe noise or something. But let's go to filters and down here, colors, and down to halftone. Now halftone's weird in the sense that the default, for some weird reason, monochrome actually shows it as color. Now if you just select it again, it shows it as black and white. I think that's a bit of a bug. Go to dot, you can make for round, or you can make a slightly blurry. Go with the cosine, up to you of course. Once you've done that, you could also select others as well. You've got colour, line, as well as circular. And again, they create some really interesting textures. But I'm going to go with monochrome, click apply. I can now turn that into a mask. So go to layer and down here to rasterize to mask. And there it is. Now, of course, at this point, it doesn't look much of a texture particularly, and you can see all the way through. Well, I don't want that. What I want to do is to select this, and I want to drag it down, and just drag it down on here. Make certain the whole thing is selected there. So it all becomes blue, and then release. And you can see now you've got the mask there, and there's the background. Now, of course, you can't see any difference. So again, just go up here, select this one, and then go to effects, click there, and then go to 3D. And now straight away, you can now see you got this effect. And you can modify this. And you can change it, obviously tweak it, the radius. Also, you've got profiles, so you can click there, and you can go through the different profiles to create different textures. I think that one looks quite nice. Now, of course, you don't have to go so extreme. You might decide, you know what, I don't want it like that. I want some distortion in it, maybe. I don't want it so uniform. So you can go to the background, make certain you select that, not this. So select that, and then you can go to filters, and you can go to distort and deform, or use some of the others as well. Pinch, perfectly reasonable as well. Maybe use displace. But I'm going to go for deform, and I'm just going to add some pins. So just add a few there, and that means you can just distort that. And you're distorting this mask. And you can just distort it so it sort of stretches off. They create subtle distortions as well. You don't have to make very extreme ones. We can really stretch it so you can distort it like that. So now click apply. And you've got that as a result. And of course, you've still got that background layer. And of course, you can always select here. And you can always run through the blend modes as well. And you can see by just changing that, you can create some very interesting texture designs that way. Maybe not so interesting when it does it like that. But say you've got that. Well, what you can now do is you can select all of these. So they're all selected. Obviously that mask is also selected. Then you can go to layer, and then you can go down here and you can say merge selected. So they all get merged into a single image. Well, what you can now do is the exact same as before. With this design, you can go to layer and you can do duplicate, layer and duplicate. You could, of course, have kept the original image as well if you wanted to do that. But now you've got that, again, you can do exact same. So select that, filters, go down here to colors, and again, halftone. You could use a different halftone this time. So halftone, again, it goes with that color. It's weird. And you can change the cell size, maybe go for small, or maybe go for large. Change the contrast, so make it slightly blurry. And then click apply. With that, again, it's not a mask until you go up to here and layer and down to rasterize to mask. So it's rasterize to mask, and you can see the exact same thing happens as before. Again, select that, drag that down, make certain the whole thing, and that is the key thing, is selected. So the whole thing's selected there, and now you've got that added into that. And again, you can't see any difference. There's nothing changed at this point until you go to this one again, and then you go to effects, click there, and then with that, go to 3D. And now you can see you've got that additional effect coming into there. And it just tweaks it, changes it, and again, exactly the same as before. Click profiles, run through the profiles, and you can see now you can add multiple textures into this. So you haven't got just a very standard looking image. You've got multiple textures that are combined in that. And again, you can do exactly the same as before. Go here to the background. Again, makes sense, you select that. Filter, repeat halftone. You could obviously do that, but I don't want to do that. I want to go to distort and deform. Again, quickly add some bins, and you can distort this one again, just subtle, just to create a whole range of different textures. And of course, you could maybe combine it so it blends to particularly around parts of the body, like that. So you might want to just make it look like it stretches along there. Maybe around there you want to less, up to you, of course. And you can always remove that completely. You just drag that down and so on. And you could, of course, drag the other one down so it wasn't so much to the face. And then you can click apply. And now you've got that. And again, exactly the same as before. Select both of them. You can then go to layer and again down here to merge selected. And of course you could repeat that. And that's with an image. Open any image. And this time I can use compound masks. So I'm not using just one mask. I can use 2 or 3. Now I'm only just going to go for 3, but you could use 10, 15, 20. But here's this background. Again, I can go to layer and I can duplicate it. So layer, duplicate, and I'm going to go for a couple. So layer and duplicate, and you can see now I've got 5 in total. So this one I'm not going to touch. That's going to be the ultimate background. This is the one I'm going to use the actual mask with, but these ones I'm going to convert into masks. But I'm going to go to filters and colours, and you could use any filter, but I'm using halftone for the examples in this. Of course, you could also use brush strokes as well, anything, just or gradients. And you can modify the cell size. And again, this has got a weird bug, so you can see now it's actually what it says. Click apply. Now, because I can't see what the result of that one, I'm just going to make it not visible. Just click here, just to remove the visibility, just for a second. With this background, I can again go to filters, and I can go down here to colours, and again, halftone. And I, of course, could apply other effects as well. You don't have to just have it as is. But again, line this time, just going to combine it with different effects. So line, increase that, and I can change the angle, screen angle, make it 45 degrees, whatever, and click apply. And I'm going to do the same. So deselect that, go here to the background, and this time filters, down to colours, halftone, exactly the same as before, but this time the bottom one, which is circular. And you can modify the cell size, and also you can modify contrast, so just make it slightly more blurry. Click apply. Now I'm going to bring them back, just bring them all back now. So I've got all those, but now what I can do, I can go to the background and I can turn it into a mask. So layer, and go down to rasterize to mask. Background, layer, and I'm just going to do these quickly, so just go here, rasterize to mask, and again, do exactly the same. Now, the end result is obviously not great at the moment, so go to layer, and down here to rasterize to mask. Well, I don't want that, obviously, it's not particularly a great looking texture. But what you can do, you can go to this one, that's the second one there, and I can go to layer, and new compound mask layer. So new compound mask layer. And now I've got this compound mask. Well, I've got all these masks. So I'm just going to drag these down, and you can put them all down, all in one go. And you can see now you've got them all there. Well, at the moment, it doesn't seem to have much effect. Again, exactly the same as before. What you need to do is go to effects, click there, and then go for 3D, or any of the others, of course. You could try some of these other ones. Bevel emboss, perfectly reasonable as well. And you can modify the radius, maybe push it up to about 15, modify the profile, just run through those. You might think that one's better than another one. Let's just go with that. And then click close. Now at this point, instead of before where it's fairly limited, I mean, you can obviously distort it, you can do other things, you can still do that now. You can go to filters, apply blurs, etc. But what I'm going to do is, you've got here, because it's a compound mask, I can actually click on this and I can go subtract. And then I can go intersect. So you can see, oh, intersect. I think that creates an interesting texture. Also, I can go to this one and I can go subtract, or go to intersect, or XOR, and so on. You can just run through these, just try them out. And of course, if you've got 10 or 15, a whole range of different options become available. And of course, you can add multiple additional backgrounds as well. Don't have to go with just 3. You could add 10 or 15. create all kinds of different designs. Now with this, exactly the same as before, select this, the top level, that's the one with the actual layer style, the 3D effect, and the background there. So all selected, layer, and down here, and merge selected. And of course you could repeat this. Do exactly the same as before. You don't have to do it once. You could do it 2 or 3 times to build up a really fairly complex textured design very quickly using this compound layer masks. You can also use pattern layers to create amazing masks. So in this case, I don't want to create multiple backgrounds. Just want to create another one. So I'm just going to go here with background selected, go to layer and duplicate. And I'm just going to use this as my background. This one I'm going to work with. And I'm going to use a selection elliptical marquee. You could use any other selection. There's lots of tools, freehand, really good as well. But elliptical marquee, I'm just going to create very, very tiny. You can see I've already got a selection there. Maybe select that. There's a whole range. Now, you don't have to create selections. You could use shapes, you could use type as well, perfectly reasonable as your pattern, or a totally different image. Don't have to use this one, but just because it's here, I can now select something from this, just maybe a little bit of the sort of like markings here. Make certain it's selected here. You've got your selection, it's got a bit of feathering as well, you can reduce that down, whatever. And now go to layer, and you can go down to new pattern layer from selection. So new pattern from layer, and you've got your selection there and your pattern design, which is fine. But the next step is I want to turn that into a mask. But it does look a bit uniform. That's the one trouble with patterns. It's not very random. So you might like to convert it first. I'm just going to quickly go. Now you could of course go to the mask side, perfectly reasonable, but I'm just going to do rasterize that and work from that. With that design, I can now manipulate it, use filters, and you can see I've already got deform there, but I can always go to distort and deform. You could use some of the others, and I can manipulate this pattern. So I add some pins, and I can just warp it. And I can warp it in all kinds of ways. Key thing is, make certain you avoid something like this, where it's stretched and pulled inwards, because you end up with this sort of really obvious area that's not so good. So I'm just dragging that out. And you best just look around the edge, make certain you've got no sort of really obvious gaps, and click apply. Now, of course, you could also use various other tools over here, brushes, maybe sort of other ones, blurs, those sort of things, just to modify it so it isn't uniform. That's the key thing for any sort of texture design, I think. Okay, so you've got that. Now I can turn it into a mask. So layer, and I can go down here and rasterize to mask. So turn it into a mask. With that, I can now just drag it down. So just drag that down onto the background so you can see they're all blue, release. Exactly the same as before. You can expand it out, you can see your mask there. Also, you can go to this background, click effects again, click there, and then 3D. And you can see I can just increase that, and you've got that lovely 3D effect very quickly, creating a lovely texture on top of your image. Also, of course, you go to profile again and just use any of these different profiles to create different designs very quickly, like that, and click close. And again, select both of them. So both the layers are selected, and layer, and down to merge selected. And of course, you can then repeat this, maybe create a different pattern, so a different design, and build up multiple designs. Or, as before, maybe combine multiple patterns, pattern layers, with that compound layer mask. That's a possibility as well. You can also add texture to shapes. Just go over here, and of course there's numerous ways of doing this, but I'm just going to go with a rectangle and create that. Also, I'm going to create exactly the same. So with that move tool selected, go to layer, and I can duplicate that. And it's obviously a good idea to keep them together. So I'm just going to select both of those, right click, and I can go down to group. Obviously at the moment, it's got no mask, but I can expand this out. And what I can do, I can now use another shape, and you of course could use an image, you use type, much more. But I'm going to use a shape, and I'm just going to go over here, and I'm going to go with, say, ellipse. So with that, I can just create ellipse. Now, obviously, I don't want it the same colour there. That doesn't particularly matter. I'm just going to go maybe with a darker colour, so darker there. And now I need to convert it first into a pixel layer. So layer, and go down here to rasterize. So rasterize, then go to layer and down to new pattern layer from selection. So that pixel layer can be turned into a pattern. So pattern layer. So I've got that, and I can reduce the size. I can now, with the move tool there, select that. I can resize it, make it maybe smaller. Now at this point, I don't want the uniformity. Again, I can use other tools to modify it. So I'm just going to go first to layer and rasterize. So rasterize. With that rasterize, I can also remove this one. Don't need that anymore. So remove that. Go back to this one, and I can go to filters, and I can use a number of ones. I'm just going to go with distort, but twirl this time. So twirl, and you can apply all kinds of different twirls. You can see just there in that center, you can move it around, reposition it, but say something like that. And I'm going just with 79 and the maximum radius, and click apply. So once I've done that, I can now drag it into here, but I need to turn it into a mask. So what I can do, I can actually just drag this down. I'm just going to put it into this group. So it's in the group, but also what I want to do now is to go click, right click, and go mask to below. Now for some weird reason is you can't use the rasterize to mask. It seems to work only with this, mask to below. So mask to below, and now you can see that mask has been added there. It's a mask. Well, once you've got that, you can now modify this. So just go back up here to the rectangle, click effects, so click there, and now go to 3D. So 3D, straight away you can see you've got that effect added. And of course you could use other ones, bevel and emboss, but you can modify this, maybe something like that, radius again, change the profile, maybe go with that. And obviously other ones, bevel and emboss, can be used as well. Also, of course, you can use some of the others as well. So click close. With that, you've now got this group. So you can see now, the whole thing is, so when you've got that selected, you can move it around, reposition it. So obviously it doesn't separate. Obviously it's going to look a bit odd if it did. And also another thing you can do, if you want, simply go to layer, and you can turn it into just a standard pixel layer. So layer and rasterize, and that's it. It's turned into a pixel layer, and you've got your lovely texture design very quickly added to that shape. You can also do the same with text. So just go over here and artistic text tool. So just create some text, something like the word text. With that, I'm using Arial. You could of course use any font, any size, but obviously just big so you can actually see it now. Exact same as before. What you can do is you can duplicate that. So layer and down to duplicate. So duplicate it. With that, I can now group those. So I'm just going to group them. I want to keep them together. Obviously, I don't want it to be separated. So with that, I can then right click and again go down here to group. So group, all grouped. I can now create the pattern design or anything else. Doesn't have to be a pattern design. You could use an image. You could use anything to create your texture design. But I'm using a pattern. So with this, again, I can use any shape. Maybe use a triangle this time. Perfectly reasonable. So a triangle, I'm just going to drag and create that. It's black there. And that, I need to first turn it into a pixel layer. Can't use it as a triangle to turn it into a pattern. So layer and go down to rasterize. Now I can manipulate it further, maybe apply some filter effects. Perfectly reasonable. Go to blur, distort it, add some noise to it, whatever. But I'm just going to keep it as is. But now what I can do is layer, new pattern layer from selection. So now I've got my very sharp pattern, and with that, go to the move tool. I can make it even sharper, maybe really intense lines like that, or maybe make it very, very small like that. Now you'll notice an issue with this, of course, the repeat is not particularly great, but you can always go to say mirror, and you've got that just by going up to the mirror. You can modify this, move it around, maybe change the angle, perfectly reasonable as well, and move it around. So with that, I'm going to use that as my pattern design and my mask. So again, let's get rid of that one. So just select that pixel layer, don't need it anymore, so just delete it. And I can just drag this down, this pattern into this group. So it makes sense, it's all highlighted and release. So now the pattern is part of that. But what I can now do, exact same as before, select it, this pattern layer, and I can go right click and down here to mask to below. So mask to below. And now it's added to that one. So expand that out, you can see your mask. Again, select this text. With this selected, go to Effects, click there, and then go to 3D. So straight away you can see now I can change that, and you can see you've got this 3D effect with this lovely texture added. And of course you've got profiles, click there again, and you can modify that, change that, and so on. And also go bevel and emboss. All kinds of different options are possible to create your texture with that text. So again, you've got it all as a group, so right click there. Just click there, not right click, but click. And with that, you can now, of course, move it around. You can reposition it. And also what you do, if you want to, go to Layer and rasterize it. Just turn it into a standard pixel layer. So rasterize. And of course, what you can then do, you can actually use it again to create multiple textures on top of that to build up a very complex, weird and wonderful textured text design. Hope you found this tutorial of interest. Any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Always great to hear from you. A like or dislike, always appreciated. Thank you much.